Paulo Costa is looking to pull out of his fight with Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 294. And no, I'm not just referring to the photo that he posted yesterday on his Instagram of him sitting in a hospital bed, which was taken 3 weeks ago, basically telling us that he's got an injury on his elbow and that he's going to be compromised, aka a guy that is looking for excuses to be made if he does show up to the fight and inevitably gets his fucking ass whooped. But not only that, he is literally trying to pull out of this fight now because he just posted something on social media that is incredibly alarming, and I can't believe that nobody is discussing this shit. It actually pisses me off. He just posted this on his story. Okay, Paulo Costa did a little back and forth with Alan Jouban, who's a former UFC fighter who's retired, that also had the same issue on his elbow, which was a staph infection. Alan Jouban said, dude, Paulo, was that the same injury that I had? And he basically goes into detail on an injury that he had that was exactly alike that of Paulo Costa's. This is what he says. Did Costa say what that surgery was from? Because it looks like bursitis, where they removed it, and I have the same scar. And I tried coming back too soon and opened up the whole thing, and I had to have it restitched 3 weeks later. And Paulo Costa basically says, yes, same brother, unfortunately, man. If you guys don't understand what that means, why is he posting this on his story? Because that is just what Paulo Costa did, is he wants to make it a point to tell the whole world. He wants to put a spotlight on himself for 2 reasons. Number one, Paulo Costa, okay, wants to tell the whole world that he has an injury on his elbow that's, after all, not that good. It's actually pretty bad. The staph infection. Alan Jouban had the same thing and it got worse. It's probably going to get worse for me. And Alan Jouban, look at Alan Jouban telling us that he had the same thing. He tried to fight with it and it opened back up. It was a nightmare. It didn't go over so well. So don't expect this to go over so well for me, guys. Expect that I'm probably going to be fighting at my worst. And number two, let's put a spotlight over me so that the whole world knows how bad this injury is, so that I may inevitably get pulled out by the doctors that are going to be clearing me to fight. This is what Paulo Costa's doing. How many times have we seen a fighter in a high-level fight post this kind of injury or this mishap on Instagram for the whole world to see a couple of weeks before their fight? Khabib Nurmagomedov had to deal with mumps before his fight with Justin Gaethje and a broken foot. He wasn't posting about it. Why? Because he intended to show up. The same thing can be said for basically every fucking fight that you've seen this year at a high level where guys are going in banged up and injured. Okay, now I understand a staph infection can get bad and you don't really want to fight when it's a bad infection. I understand that. But if that's the case, you pull out. And I understand for Paulo Costa, it's a rough situation. Like, don't get me wrong. I get that he's in a pickle. But the point is, you don't go online and blast it all over the media to diminish the hype of the fight so that the fans now don't think it's going to be competitive, so that the fans think there's a chance you're going to pull out. He should have done all of this behind the scenes. He could have pulled Dana White to the side. He could have pulled the head honchos to the side and said, guys, I just fucked my elbow up. I'm getting staph infection now and I got to get surgery. I just want to let you know I don't want to pull out of the fight. I intend on fighting Khamzat Chimaev. And if for whatever reason I have to pull out, please, I want to let you know so that you can get a late replacement. And please don't cut me from the UFC because, again, I can't control this. It's staph infection. You can't control whether or not you get staph infection at times. I understand it's one of those things to where you need to be taking a shower after you train, but sometimes there ain't nothing you can do. You're just going to fucking get it. Instead of going to Dana White and Hunter Campbell and telling them that he had staph infection, it was nasty, and that he didn't want to pull out. He wants the fight, but there's just some times where you can't do anything. He goes out there on social media. He blasts it for the world to see. He's just ruined the hype for the fight. And not only that, he's thinking about pulling out, and they probably don't have a late replacement that is interesting. They might have some bum that's going to take the fight like they did with Chris Moutinho and Sean O'Malley. But if Costa went and told them when he actually got surgery, which may have happened. I don't know if it happened or not, but I'm doubting it heavily just because we don't have a late replacement that we know about. If we had told them 5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever he got the surgery, we would probably hear something about Jared Cannonier is going to be the backup for this fight. Marvin Vettori is going to be the backup for this fight. But because he didn't do it, the whole fight is jeopardized. It might go completely under. And now think about UFC 294 without Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa. It's Charles and Islam. The co-main event is going to be what? Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker, and then Aliskerov versus Warlley Alves because Imavov just pulled out. The card's going to shit. And I just don't understand why nobody's calling him out for this bullshit. It's clear as day is what he's doing. He's trying to fucking find a way out of the fight. The fact that the UFC even allowed Paulo Costa to have the opportunity to fight Khamzat Chimaev, a guy that's been completely mismanaged. They took the risk with Costa. They gave Khamzat Chimaev the most inconsistent, incompetent fighter that they could have possibly matched him up with. There was always a chance that this was going to happen. And it was smooth sailing all the way up until he blasted his bullshit on social media. Again, they should have given Khamzat Jared Cannonier. They should have given Khamzat someone else. I know that the Costa fight had its own hype. I get it completely. It's the allure of Khamzat Chimaev being good enough to maybe take out someone as big and strong as Paulo Costa. That, you know, if he struggled with Gilbert Burns, he's probably going to struggle with Paulo Costa. How can he get past that test? I get it. But they should have had a backup plan. And I haven't heard shit about a backup opponent. But they better be scrambling to get one now. Because we've waited a fuckload of time for the return of Khamzat Chimaev. This guy is a special fighter. He's a special athlete that has potential to be a long-reigning champion. They've put the fate of this guy's next fight of his career in the hands of Paulo Costa. And it's just so annoying, man. He needs to get cut from the UFC. Simple as, man. I'm fucking tired of this bullshit. I'm so fed up with this guy's career, and even more so his fans that constantly make excuses, that come out here and say he's trolling, or say what? What, he's not supposed to have staff? That's not the point. The point is that this guy is posting about his injury because there are two things on his mind. That is, one, a built-in excuse if he gets his ass kicked, and number two, trying to find a way out of the fight. Trying to take Alan Jouban's tweet and post it online to let everyone know that this thing could get pretty bad and it might open up again. What if it opens up right before the fight? This is what is the annoying part about it. If Paulo Costa was serious, he would have shut his fucking mouth. If he was serious, he would have zipped up. He wouldn't have mentioned this at all. And I understand. He would have went into the fight compromised, and then if he were to talk about it afterwards, we might not believe him. But that's how the game goes. That's the code that these fighters live by. And that's something that's very important in regards to promotion. You know what I mean? And for Paulo Costa, he's dug himself his own grave because this is not the first time this would happen. He's done this before. He's fucked up with Marvin Vettori and decided not to make weight. He's ruined that whole fight week. Well, he didn't ruin it because he still fought Vettori, but my point is, he basically gave the UFC brass a heart attack when fighting Marvin Vettori. He pulled out of his fight with Robert Whittaker. I remember he pulled out of a fight with Jared Cannonier. And of course, he was supposed to fight Aliskerov and ended up pulling out of that. He doesn't have the room to be able to do this. Okay, so even if he is in a pickle and we might feel bad for him a little bit, this is his fucking problem, because if he wasn't pulling out of all these other fights, this wouldn't have been that much of an issue. But the fact that Khamzat hasn't fought in over a year, the fact that Costa is the guy that they gave this opportunity with, and he's about to take it away from us, and even if he does take the fight, we are way less interested in it now because we're not expecting him to be at his best, where he's saying things like he's going to beat him with one arm. Unbelievable, man. The card's ruined if this fight doesn't happen. And if it does happen, the card's not nearly as good. And that's just the reality of the situation, man. Paulo Costa has single-handedly diminished this card's value. And nobody's calling him out for it. And everyone just lets him get away because he makes funny joke. He make jokes sometime. Fucking hell, man. The shit is... I just don't understand it, man. How dumb are MMA fans? They're letting this guy off the hook. I mean, there are people that are congratulating him on his comment section when he's talking about the injury. Well, why is he posting about it to begin with? The only reason would be that he's looking for people to make excuses for him, or he's looking to make an excuse for when he pulls out. For example, hear me out. I would not be surprised if all of these antics are for Paulo Costa just to tell people about the injury so that there's a better buildup, so that he could at least try to let us know that, hey, I did everything in my power. I told you guys I was injured, and I did everything in my power to try to make it to fight day, but it just opened up. And hey, you know, you shouldn't be surprised. Alan Jouban, he said it was going to open up for me. So, I mean, it happened, but I tried everything in my power. I was telling you guys 3 days ago that I was going to make the fight 100%. I just couldn't end up doing it. Sorry. This is what he's doing. I mean, like, it's clear as day. This is exactly what Paulo Costa's doing right now. He is easing us into, you know, letting him off the hook, letting him sneak through the cracks. And he needs to get cut from the UFC if he doesn't make this fight. And you know what? It's a complicated issue because calling for someone to get cut from the roster is a big deal. But he's already put himself in this position by jeopardizing event after event after event after event after event. All this guy has done in his career as of late is be a liability. Okay, he has devalued every single pay-per-view the UFC has attempted to put him on, and he's doing it again for this fight. Even if he shows up, I am no longer anywhere near as hyped as I was if I would have been if he had never posted this bullshit to begin with. AKA, I'm no longer as hype as I would have been if Paulo Costa actually went out there with confidence and believed he could win. All right, he should have either pulled out, he should have told the UFC behind the scenes that this was going on so they could at least have a backup that's ready and waiting for both of them, or he should have just zipped up and pushed through it like every other fighter that has an injury. And don't, please, spare me with the, it's staph infection, whatever it is. If it's not serious enough to pull you out of a fight, don't fucking mention it. And that should make you think, well, oh, it's staph infection. It is serious enough to pull him out of a fight. Okay, so why is he posting about it and letting us know that he's going to fight? It's because there's a chance he doesn't fight because he's going to pull out, because he wants to put a spotlight over himself. He wants the medicals to not clear him. That's why this injury may be, or the staph infection, it may be bad enough to where he can't fight. The fact that he's posting about it is suspicious. It tells me that he wants out. It tells me that he wants people to make excuses for him. He doesn't think he can win this fight anymore. And because of that, the whole fight is fucked. It's not as interesting. But anyway, guys, I had to make this rant. I had to make another video about Paulo Costa because it's just unbelievable how many times this guy has fucked up and people have let it slide. He needs to be called out for this bullshit. He does. I like Paulo Costa. I'm a fan of his fight style. Okay? I'm a fan of that's it. I was about to say I'm a fan of his antics, but I'm not. I'm not a fan of these antics. I'm not. And some of you motherfuckers are going to call him a Chad. Say, oh, Paulo's a Chad, man. He's a Chad, bro. I've been getting hyped for this fight for 3 months, and I'm okay if he pulls out. I don't even care. Well, then I must be a bigger fan than you. I must be someone that really does care about the sport and actually gets hyped for these things, because I do care. I do. I really do care about seeing this matchup. You know, I was confident that Khamzat was going to beat him, but there was still some questions in my mind about, oh, Paulo's going to be strong and he's going to be ready. And, he's confident. He thinks he can win. This is a mentally tough Paulo Costa. Maybe not as mentally tough as Khamzat, but mentally tough. Now I'm thinking of it as Paulo doesn't even want to fight. Like, he's just going to wilt. He's just going to throw one right hand. His elbow's going to hurt and he's going to go down. And I am hyped for this fight again. Some of you guys are going to say, oh, who cares, bro? Why you care so much? Because I'm a fucking diehard MMA fan. That's why. I want to see this fight. I've been getting hyped for it for so long. UFC 294, man. I thought we would have a nice smooth buildup like we did last time. You know, at least TJ Dillashaw shut his mouth. I just forgot about TJ. At least TJ shut up before he fought Aljamain Sterling. And you know what? Let me just say this. To be fair, I want to be 100% honest. A lot of us criticize TJ Dillashaw for showing up and say he wasted everyone's time. TJ Dillashaw should have pulled out of that fight. End of story. He should have pulled out. Okay? But he took the fight anyway because he's a savage. So respect to TJ for taking the fight, but he should have pulled out. I am not opposed to Paulo Costa pulling out. I just want to mention that again. I'm not opposed to it. As long as he would have went behind the scenes and told Dana and Hunter Campbell and all these guys the truth and said, guys, I want to take this fight. I want to fight this guy, but my body's not letting me do it. Like, I don't want this to be a TJ Dillashaw situation to where my body just crumbles in the cage and everyone's mad at me and everyone views the fight as a dud. You know, I want you guys to have a successful UFC 294. Get someone else just in case. Get someone else just in case. He should have did that, man. And yes, I would have been livid. I would have been pissed. And then I would have said to myself, all right, staph infection, like, you can't fight with this sometimes. At least we have Jared Cannonier stepping in. At least Paulo Costa didn't jeopardize this the week of the fight. And now he's doing just that, which is why it's unbelievably annoying. And I needed to call out this bullshit. Until next time.